was supposed to be a WB Kids thing. Like, they were supposed to make a Lobo cartoon and sanitize it down so that kids could watch it. And that wound up not happening, not working out. And nobody wanted to touch this project. So it wound up just being a web series. You can watch it on YouTube. You can find it here if you just look up, the Lobo web series. It's only 35 minutes, because it's just a bunch of short episodes, and it's pretty great. Like, it's got a little bit of everything, if you want to see aliens ripped apart, there's violence against women, violence against children. It's a little bit of everything. And there's this part where there's this woman, this like kind of blonde, like Barbie doll looking girl, and everyone's like this gross looking alien. And this lady, she's like, oh yeah, Lobo's such a sweet guy. And then later, Lobo, she's just blowing up all these aliens, just ripping them apart, rip and tear. She's just walking up, and Lobo just picks her up and just throws her into the pile of bodies. And it's just so funny. And then later on, she seduces Lobo, and he thinks he's about to get some action. And then she just she does like a switch out with this nasty looking alien lady. And then she just goes off and steals his bike and flips him off. And like, it's just so funny. It's great. It's good stuff. And there's actually a political ad. And I love it, because this just reminds me with the recent election we had in the United States. It just really is kind of insanity how this would have been much better than what we got. Either way, I don't get political here. I try to keep my own political views kind of ambiguous, but gotta say, man, if this is what we were getting.
What others promise, he'll deliver. Integrity, truthfulness, candor. A president who will reach out a hand to forge a new partnership with the people.
This is crap!
And I'm not going to show the whole thing. Lobo essentially just kills everyone that looks in his way. And it's pretty great because you know what, man? At least he's being honest. Like, all these other politicians, they want you to think that they're your friend. They want you to think that they're going to get us out of wars and all of this crap that they promise. But he's just going to be like, yeah, dude, brag you. Has anybody heard of that? Because I did not hear about that until recently. I saw an article that was talking about it, and yeah, that was supposed to be a kids thing originally, and wound up not being that. And there's no official release of that from DC, so the whole thing's just on YouTube in full. You can watch it 35 minutes and you can just watch the whole series. And so with Jason Mamoa being cast, with everyone excited about Lobo, what better time than now to watch this obscure piece of 2000s internet history? Because that thing, it really is a blast from the past. Like, if you were online in the 2000s, you're gonna really enjoy that, because there really was just a place and time that you will never be able to replicate. Like, the internet is so sanitized nowadays, you will never be able to get back to something like that. If you love Lobo, if you just love kind of the off-the-walls sort of one-shot nature, that's kind of what you get. It's like a bunch of like 3-4 minute episodes that don't really have anything to do with each other, just kind of put together into a half-hour long little movie type thing. I doubt that this will ever get an official release, but that would be interesting if James Gunn decided they wanted to do that. Lobo's like, fuck them kids. Yeah, Yeah, I had to stop the political ad because right before I stopped, there is a child that is put in danger by Lobo. We'll just put it that way. Wait, we want to see violence against women and I'm just kidding, man. I mean, sometimes it makes for a good story. You know, I'm not saying that I like that stuff or I want it to happen in real life, but what I'm saying is that I think, you know, people need to take risks and it can make for a good story, that's all. And then Rondale, did the blonde on the space bike just flip the main man off? Yeah, she did. Yeah, she seduced him. She swapped out places with this gross alien and then just drove off with his bike. He got the bike back. We didn't see what happened to the woman, but he got the bike back. Matt saying this gal is weird. Man, I just like comics. I don't know. I like weird stuff. I like, you know, messed up stuff sometimes. And that's, you know, that's why we're all here. We all have our own weird interests, you know. I'm into horror, you know, I'm into 60s Batman. I love the Silver Age. I was just talking about how I love, you know, Superman from the Silver Age and how wholesome and goofy he is. So, I have broad interests. If something entertains me, then it entertains me. Learning about a not safe for work Lobo webtoon was not on my bingo card today. Bookmarking that for a watch later. Well, you see that? That's why I'm doing it. Because you know what? People are interested. Even if something's weird and taboo and it's not for you, there are people who are interested, and I'm, you know, introducing people to something they never knew about, and so that's cool, man. Yeah, it was nuts, and I didn't even show you the weirdest stuff. Philosopher King, never heard of that cartoon in my life. Yeah, I don't think a lot of people did. I don't think anyone was really trying to promote that at DC. I don't know what happened between that being conceptualized as a kid's show and what it became. I don't know what happened. Obviously, they couldn't make that work. I'd be interested to see what they would do. Life has enough drama. I'm here to have fun. I agree, man. And like, that's exactly why we're all here, why we all read comics, why we all consume this pop culture media, because it's fun. It's an escape. You know, that guy earlier, you know, he was kind of like grilling me because I mentioned that, you know, there was violence in the Lobo cartoon, violence against women, violence against children. And, you know, the way I see it is like media would be boring if we weren't disturbed by it sometimes. Like, you know, that's why people love true crime stuff. There are people who just sit there and do their makeup while they tell a real story about a serial killer. You know, like there are people who will just laugh and make jokes in light of actual murder victims. And I'm just here sharing a cartoon I thought was entertaining just because of how off the walls, bonkers, ridiculous would never happen in real life. It was. And, you know, I think it's important for art to be provocative, even if it's not for everyone. It's important that we do provoke and we do take those risks in some way. And so, you know what? Some people get their kicks hearing about real life murder, watching, you know, interrogation footage, watching, you know, people do their makeup talking about real life murder. Like you know, everyone has their thing. But for me, I like comics. I like the fact that Lobo is a parody, you know? Like, it's just supposed to be silly, ironic, stupid. It's making fun of the comics that were coming out at the time because, you know, throughout the 90s, there were comics that were telling those same kinds of stories, but they were dead serious. Like, they thought that that was just the coolest thing in the world. And you know what? I don't. I'm not the biggest fan of 90s comics. I don't think they're the coolest thing in the world. But I like Lobo. A good show. Some people are just grumpy. Yeah, I don't really get it. Like, you know, we're all here for some kind of an escape, you know. So I don't get it, you know. Like, does everything need a content warning? Like, does the world need to revolve around you as an individual and your feelings? You know, like, the way I see it is I'm pretty good at knowing, you know, what I want to see, what I don't want to see, and I just avoid what I don't want to see. That's all. But, you know, I'm not going to judge anyone for what they think, what they want. But, you know, it was something I wanted to talk about, and I talked about it, and you know what? It is what it is. You mentioned true crime. My mom used to watch those shows before bed. Asked her how she could sleep afterwards. She said, well, you're watching Walking Dead. Yeah, dude, I think it's like crazy how so many people, they won't even bat an eye hearing about like these real murder cases, these cold cases where like that person could still be out there. You have no idea. And but then they love to point a finger at like heavy metal music or comic books or, you know, violent media, violent shows. Like, they love to point the finger at people like us, nerds, who are just expressing ourselves in a healthy way. I think everyone's curious in darker things, and some people who are sick and twisted act on that stuff. But those of us who, you know, are more cultured, we like to absorb it through media, and we like to kind of find a more fictionalized, maybe satirical version of it. But yeah, like it really just blows my mind that the same news networks that will cover these like brutal homicides and just show uncensored footage of victims, but then in the same breath will criticize a heavy metal band, someone like Slayer, and like break down their lyrics. And you know, when you got Tom Araya, the leader of Slayer, the lead singer of Slayer, who's like a devout Christian, like very religious guy, but you know, you have these people in the media pointing fingers, saying, you know, it's the work of the devil, all this. So I'm sorry if anyone did not want to be subjected to that Lobo cartoon, but I think, you know, everyone here seems pretty chill. I don't know about that one dude who was kind of taking things a little seriously, because here's the thing, I don't take things very seriously. Like me, you know, saying what I did, you know, describing the cartoon and kind of how disgusting and gross it is in my very deadpan, serious way. You know, that's kind of the sort of humor I try to go for, is sort of like the way Adam West in the 1966 show described the theater of the absurd, which is sort of where, you know, you sort of just say these crazy, ridiculous, absurd things in just the most sort of serious, straight, deadpan way. And that's kind of how I like to be, because, you know, you look at me, I'm pretty unsuspecting, you know, you might just think I'm just kind of this sort of sweet, naive girl, you know, and then I just kind of go off on some pretty wild stuff. And so that's kind of my approach to things, you know, like obviously I don't want to see violence in real life, but we're talking about a comic book cartoon, and so I don't know.